Mr. Speaker, the whole country has been appalled by the disclosures about phone hacking. The 7/7 victims, the parents of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, and of course the phone of Millie Dowler. That anyone could hack into her phone, listen to her family's frantic messages, and delete them, giving false hope to those parents, is immoral and a disgrace. Given the gravity of what has occurred, will the Prime Minister support the calls for a full, independent public inquiry to take place as soon as practical into the culture and practices of British newspapers?
Let me be very clear. Yes, we do need to have an inquiry, possibly inquiries into what has happened. Let us be clear. We are no longer talking here about politicians and celebrities. We're talking about murder victims, potentially terrorist victims, having their phones hacked into. It is absolutely disgusting what has taken place, and I think everyone in this House, and indeed this country, will be revolted by what they've heard and what they've seen on their television screens. Let me, if I may, Mr. Speaker, make a couple of points. First of all, there is, and people need to know this, a major police investigation underway. It is one of the biggest police investigations currently underway in our country, and crucially, and I hope members opposite will listen to this, it does not involve police officers who were involved in the original investigation that so clearly didn't get to the truth. But I do think it's important that we have inquiries that are public, inquiries that are independent, and inquiries that have public confidence. It seems to me there are two vital issues we need to look into. The first is the original police inquiry and why that didn't get to the bottom of what has happened, and the second is about the behaviour of individual people and individual media organisations, and, as the right honourable gentleman says, a wider look into media practices and ethics in this country. Clearly, as he says, we cannot start all that sort of inquiry immediately because you must not jeopardise the police investigation. But it may be possible to start some of that work earlier. I'm very happy to discuss this with him, with other party leaders, with the Attorney General and the Cabinet Secretary to make sure we get this right and that lessons are learned from what has become a disgraceful episode.
What we also know, Mr. Speaker, as well as needing a public inquiry, as well as needing the B-Sky bid referred to the Competition Commission, is that these were not the actions of a rogue individual or a rogue reporter, but part of a wider systematic pattern of abuses. The public see a major news organisation in this country where no one appears prepared to take responsibility for what happened. Nobody is denying that Millie Dowler's phone was hacked. And nobody is denying it happened on the watch of the current Chief Executive of News International, who was editor of the newspaper at the time. Will the Prime Minister join me if he believes in people taking responsibility, in saying that she should take responsibility and consider her position?
Well, first of all, let me deal with this issue of technicalities. Because I have to say to him, when you're dealing with the law, you have to look at the technicalities because there's something called due process that you have to follow. That is necessary for any government, and I'm sure he understands that. In terms of News International, everyone at News International has got to ask themselves some pretty searching questions, and everyone at News International is subject to what currently is one of the largest police investigations underway in this country. What I think is we should let the police do their work. They must follow the evidence wherever it leads, and if they find people guilty of wrongdoing, they should have no hesitation but in making sure they're prosecuted.
Mr. Ed Miliband.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know from that answer whether he says that the Chief Executive of News International should stand down or not. I am clear she should take responsibility and stand down. And Mr. Speaker, these events show a systematic set of abuses which demonstrate the use of power without responsibility in our country. It is in the interest of our democracy and the public that these issues are sorted out. With the biggest press scandal in modern times getting worse by the day, I'm afraid he hasn't shown the leadership necessary today. He hasn't shown the leadership necessary on B-Sky B. He hasn't shown the leadership necessary on News International. And isn't it the case, if the public is to have confidence in him, he's got to come the thing that is most difficult. He's got to accept that he made a catastrophic error of judgment by bringing Andy Coulson into the heart of his Downing Street machine.
What people...
Order!
Order. I apologise for interrupting the Prime Minister. Order. The Prime Minister should not have to shout to be heard, and neither, for that matter, should the Leader of the Opposition. It is thoroughly disorderly. The Prime Minister will now be heard. The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I take full responsibility for everyone I employ, for everyone I appoint, and I take responsibility for everything my government does. What this government is doing is making sure that the fact the public, and I feel so appalled by what has happened, murder victims, terrorist victims who've had their phones hacked, is quite disgraceful. That is why it's important there is a full police investigation with all the powers that they need. That's why it's important we have those inquiries to get to the bottom of what went wrong and the lessons that need to be learned. And that is why we also need to inquire how we improve the ethics and morals of the press in this country and make sure they improve for the future. That is what needs to be done. That's what this government is doing, and we don't have to take lectures from him about it.